Hi, fans of my channel. Hope you guys are all doing good. Um, I want to talk. I'm going to be talking about watches today. Um, Again, because it's something I've been into lately. As you all know, I'm an eBay junkie. So I've been on eBay since around maybe 2004. Just because eBay was one of the new things, and I didn't want to miss the boat. So I signed up. I didn't even know what it was, really. So I'm not on Facebook. Um, so yeah. But anyways, here we are. It's Tuesday, July 13th. And for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm 52 years old. I'm in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm into a lot of things, but lately I've been into watches. Spent a lot of time watching BitChute. I don't know if you guys know what BitChute is, but I would check it out. It's bitchute.com. And it's an alternative media. And sure, there's a lot of crap there. Sure, there's a lot of misinformation. But there's also a lot of cutting edge stuff there too. So you kind of have to sift through it and, decide for yourself and use your brain. So anyways, yeah, it's July 13th, 2021. And it's another watch video. And the reason I'm making this video is because I really want to tell you people that you can get an amazing watch on eBay. And you can get a watch. Watches are so overpriced. And when you do a little bit of research, you'll realize how overpriced watches are, especially like the super rich, fancy watches. If you really are smart, you can get yourself a really, really good deal, as I did. Now, I got this. It's pretty nice to have a nice watch because I'm talking about the watch you wear every day. So if you have a watch you wear every day, you don't want to wear something fancy. You just want something plain. You want something that's not going to stand out. It's just you're basically a timekeeper. So for my everyday watch, I don't have a fancy watch. I have like an actual polar watch. This is my everyday watch. And I've been a fan of polar watches for many, many years. And because I started off as I decided I wanted to start running. So, and I wanted to get a heart rate monitor. So my first heart rate monitor was a polar. And I've loved the polar watches ever since. They have like a James, I would consider like a James Bond feature on the polar watch. And that is where you hold your heart rate monitor to your chest strap and it automatically lights up the dial. So that was pretty exciting. When I realized that I just bought a watch that had that feature, that was an exciting moment. But anyways, I run regularly now. Like I'm trying to run regularly 7K every week, or more, even a couple times a week. And I'm trying to get that up to 10K, but I'm kind of hitting I'm hitting a little bit of a block right now at 7K. So I just I gotta do some real research into my diet so that I get past that 7K block, so that I make my runs like an average 10K. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about running. I'm here to talk about watches. And like I said, okay, well, yeah, this is my Polar, my everyday go-to watch. And this is like this watch came out a few years ago. It was like Polar's first Android watch, using the app Android platform, and they don't really make any other Android watches now, I don't think. And this was like, I was able to pick this up as, again, I'm an eBay dealer, like not an eBay dealer, but I grab deals on eBay. So I was able to get this watch brand new for $100 after a lot of searching. And it's really nice because it's got the built-in really nice heart rate monitor, because that's what they do. This watch is basically heart rate monitors, so they're not like, an Apple Watch that does other stuff mostly. Their heart rate monitor watches are excellent, and this one's got the GPS built in and the heart rate monitor built in. But I also have the belt for it, the Bluetooth belt for it. So, anyways, let's put this watch away and let's go back to my Hublot. Now, everything about this Hublot watch is expensive. I'm not kidding you. And the Hublot stuff now is just so incredibly priced. It's just mind blowing. Like literally, like to buy parts for like the new Hublot. Like I've seen a crown. Like the crown is this thing that my finger's pointing at. That's the crown. And to buy that crown on some new Hublots, that's like $500 for a little piece of metal. A little tiny piece of metal like that is like $500. It's just crazy. So, and I'll tell you something about these watches, okay? When you buy yourself, I'm not talking about your everyday watch. I'm talking about the watch that you wear when you had a really good week and you have a nice occasion. What is your occasion? You go out to dinner with your relatives. You go out to dinner with your girlfriend or your wife, or or a nice occasion. You want a watch to wear on a nice occasion. And that's why you'd think about getting one of these watches. And they're also good investments. I think they're good investments as well. And they're quite enjoyable. I mean, it's just too amazing. It's amazing to see a piece of engineering like this. It really is. It's just amazing to see the engineering in a watch like this. So, I absolutely bought this watch on the spur of the moment. I made some money on cryptocurrency, and I bought two watches on the spur of the moment. Literally searching around eBay, and I just bought it on the spur of the moment. I bought this one on the spur. This was the first one I bought on the spur of the moment. It's a Ulysses Nardin, and it's a Swiss-made movement, and I really loved it. I've been looking for a nice vintage watch, and I think it basically hit on all the things that I like about watches. It's not, it's a very basic looking watch, but it still looks like, it's a good looking watch. So it had a lot going for it, and so this was my first. I can't remember how much I paid for it. It was a couple $100. It might have been $500, and it wasn't in working condition. I know how much I paid for it. I can find out how much I paid for it on by going back and looking on my eBay. I think I paid under $500. I'm pretty sure I paid under $500 for it. So anyways, I took a risk on it because it wasn't working. Now, you make an educated risk. When you buy things on eBay, you take an educated risk. And I'll tell you something, there's telltale signs like, you have to be a little bit of a sleuth and a little bit of a detective. And when you're looking for something like this on eBay, so you have to be a little bit of a detective. And what you're looking for as a detective is you're looking at signs of, especially if you're buying something older, you're looking at how hard was this object used when it was, used. So you look at it and you say, oh, well, look at the dial. The one thing I noticed right away was how good the dial looked. Okay? So you can't really change a dial. After you buy the watch, that's it. You can't really improve on the dial a lot of the times. That's what you get. So anyways, like I said, I mean, I found a bit about history of this watch. It was not, there's the Ulysses Nardin that are made in Switzerland, and these are the Ulysses Nardin that are made in New York. So the movements were sent to New York, and then the watch was made in New York. So anyways, this is the manual winding, and it's got an automatic, a very early automatic movement in it. And so I haven't worn it for a while. And of course you can always wind it as well. And I had the local watchmaker get it up to running condition. So it wasn't running, so I did take a risk on it, but it works now. So anyways, let's go over to this one here. Now, this watch here is an even nicer watch. This watch here is like everything I think a beautiful watch should be. Okay, I think it's like the best of every world, this watch. Here's why I think it's the best of every world in this watch. Okay, look at, it's got a recessed sapphire crystal. See how flat the sapphire crystal is, and it's recessed like that. It's flush to the case, so not only is it incredibly hard sapphire crystal, but it's recessed so that it doesn't get banged. So that's a really beautiful idea, to have that recessed crystal. The other thing too is that it's got the beautiful sort of tank style case. It's a beautiful tank style case, but it's not unobtrusively big. It's 35 millimeters. So it's just such a great design. Like this Hublot MDM, I just love this design of this watch. And it's got a really nice movement. Okay, it's got an ETA 98. What is it? 98 something. It's an ETA movement. 9892 movement. 9892-2 movement. So this is the miniature movement. The 9892 is the miniature movement that's in a lot of famous watches. And it's a rock solid movement. It's a really beautiful movement. And it's a bidirectional weight, so it winds the watch in both directions when it's winding. Now, I got this watch. I got a screaming deal on this watch, okay? Now, I finally put a strap on it, but it didn't have any strap on it. So, it didn't really have a strap on it. So, as you can see, I got the Cordura strap for it. So, I got a screaming deal on this watch because I got it for around $500 US. And, it was in quite beat up shape, and I've learned a lot about watches since I got this. It's the first time I've taken a movement out of a case. I took the movement out of this case before. It's the first time I've taken a stem out of the watch. It's the first time I've replaced the stem in a watch. It's the first time I've reloomed a watch. And what I'm talking about this video today is I oiled the auto rotor. So there's a rotor that's a counterweight in the back of this watch. So there's a rotor that spins around this watch, and when you shake the watch, I don't know if you can hear that. You might be able to hear it on the mic. But there's an auto rotor in that watch. Now, I found out you're going to find out a couple things about watches. There's something called a hacking mechanism in a watch. Now, if the watch has a hacking mechanism, that means that when you pull the stem out, it'll stop the second hand. See how the second hand is stopped now? So the second hand is stopped now. And when I push the crown in, you'll see the second hand start again. There it goes. So that's what you call a hacking second hand. So that's for you watch fans out there, you'll find out that this model watch movement called the ETA 9892-2 is the small movement, and you can actually buy these whole movements on eBay. So you can make yourself up a fantastic watch. You could make up yourself $1,000, like literally a watch that's worth thousands of dollars, on eBay. Like it's, you could buy yourself a movement, like if you know a little bit, like you could buy yourself even the better movement. There's a better movement than this one. It's called the ETA 9892-A2. Okay, so it's an even better movement than this one. It's the most improved movement. So yeah, it's you could build yourself a watch, not a problem. You could build yourself a really nice watch in whatever style you wanted to. I actually just bid on a watch, or I didn't bid on a watch. I actually bought a watch. I have another watch on its way, and it's a really unique watch. It's a Zenith movement in a Movado watch, and it's called the Surf Subsea Surf Movado Surf Subsea. And it's just a beautiful watch, vintage watch from the 70s, I think, or the 80s, 70s. So this is my vintage watch from the 80s. So this is what a vintage watch looks like from maybe circa 1989, I think, the late 80s. So I think I did pretty good with this watch. I'm going to talk about the latest things that I did to this watch. The latest things I did to this watch are I got some dark brown nail polish. Now you're thinking to yourself, what the heck is he going to do with dark brown nail polish? Well, you see these little numerals all over the edges? The numerals, some of the numerals, like the marking was gone on the numerals and the markers. And so what I did was I took dark brown, I wiped this down with alcohol, and then I used dark brown nail polish, and I put a coating of dark brown nail polish over the whole dial, or over the whole rotating bezel, the rotating bezel. I put dark brown nail polish, and then I basically just lightly sanded off, very gently. I very gently sanded off the dark brown nail polish, and so that it stayed into all of the numerals on the bezel. You can pop that bezel off. The other thing that I did too is you can take I used like a 380 grit, I think. I'm pretty sure it was 380 grit sandpaper. And the original Hublot bezel had sort of a circular brushed metal, but in a circular pattern. It was like brushed metal in a circular pattern. Now, that's long gone. And but basically, I wanted to get that brushed metal look on the gold. So basically, you can actually pop the whole bezel off. You just basically stick a knife in the side and you can pop the bezel off carefully, very gently. And then you can basically use like 380 grit sandpaper, but that's actually a little bit too rough. So what's a really good thing, and I saw this online actually, is if you use like a Scotch-Brite pad, you can get this really nice sort of it's sort of like a soft colored gold look on it. It's like a frosted gold look, and that's closer to the original look, so the frosted gold. And so I was able to get that, and this watch is really starting. And also I did the relume. I put a little bit of lume in this little tiny dot right there. And so yeah, the bezel's all done. And this watch is keeping really good time. It's really keeping great time now as well. This model, the ETA 9892-2, it's a great looking. By the way, it's a great looking automatic movement. If you even look at the automatic movement, it's a fantastic looking movement too. It's really beautiful inside. It's got all like sort of like machine turned surfaces. Really cool looking. So anyways, I got this, this is a little bottle of microgliss. It's called microgliss. and you can buy them in 2 milliliter bottles, and it's basically it's watch oil, and it's made so that it doesn't over time it won't gum up and won't evaporate, and stuff like that. So it's called microgliss, and it's called Mobius microgliss, and this is a little bottle of it. So anyways, this watch would stop every now and again, and the rotor wasn't turning very freely. So the rotor was kind of like, it wasn't moving, like just, spinning really nicely. So I wanted to oil the rotor. So I'm telling you, don't attempt to try this at home unless you really, really have confidence working around mechanical stuff, because it's really not the easiest. I have a lot of admiration for people that like attempt to do watch repairs, because the extent of my watch repairing is like, I removed the hands on this watch and put the hands on this watch back. Not the easiest thing to do. I took the dial off and I put the dial on. That's not so bad. There's a little case clamp. There's a little case clamp in here. That was kind of difficult to get that in place, but I was able to get the case clamps in. And of course I was able to pop the stem off and replace the stem, and loom the dial and loom the hands and remove the old loom. These are jobs that I did, and I don't expect anybody to be able to do this at all. And if you're starting off working on a watch, buy an old junk watch, because don't spend like $500 or $1,000 on a watch and then expect to try to take it apart and be able to, get it back. You might make mistakes. These are very delicate things. It's one little piece of dust in the wrong place and you can stop this watch. So that's the importance. One of the importance of these watches is that you don't even want to, I wouldn't even wear, okay, this is where I get serious about these watches, okay? You don't even want to wear one of these watches every day, okay? Because if you just get water into the movement and everything like that, rust can happen, and then, before long, the watch just shuts down. This is just not, this is a fine instrument. It's not something that's made. If you're going to wear a watch every day, where you wash your hands
Just trying to do everything
and you get it wet and stuff like that, this is not the watch to wear every day. Okay, this is the type of watch you wear when you go out, when you know you're not going to be messing about with dirty things. Okay, so yeah, you want to keep this watch as meticulously clean and free of moisture, free of dirt as you possibly can. Definitely you don't want to be wearing this watch every day. Okay? I don't know, if you're a millionaire, maybe you want to wear this watch every day and you don't really care, because you have so much money that if you destroy the watch movement, you can just get a new one. Like, it to you is nothing. If money is that much to you, then I'm not talking. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about somebody who wants to buy one of these watches, and who doesn't have the money to like throw around and just have a disposable watch. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that this watch is like, it's delicate AF, like as fuck, right? So, sure, it can take a beating and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean you should do it, okay? So, but anyways, so I'm gonna tell you the little adventures, okay? Now I'm telling you, I'm 52 years old and I don't have the greatest eyesight and anymore. But these watch screws are so small that you should not even attempt. Um, I'm going to talk about buying one of these watches, okay? So you go on eBay and you see this incredible watch that you want to buy. And when you start looking into watches, you realize that there's watches that are $3,000 with the same movement inside that's in that you can buy the movement for $200, okay? There's even a better movement than this, okay? And that's the ETA 9892-A2, and you can buy that movement for $300 on eBay. And like you can also buy it for $700. And this is in like a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 watch. Maybe even more. Probably 5,000 is probably the top. So, that's a huge difference in price, right? So, and it's all about the movement, I mean. But anyways, I kind of go all over the place sometimes, and I hope everybody is following me. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is when you buy anything, you don't want to buy anything that's been manhandled. What do I mean by manhandled? Okay, manhandled is when you see something, like anything. It could be anything. It could be a car, it could be a bicycle, anything mechanical, anything electronics, okay? When you look at it, the average person doesn't look really closely at something, okay? But when you start looking really carefully at things, you notice things, okay? And this is what I'm telling you is when you're buying, I'm not going to go into everything else, but I'm going to go into watches first, okay? So when you buy a watch, if you're going to buy a watch on eBay, look at the pictures. If they don't have any good pictures, if they just have one or two pictures, that's a flag. Stay away from that auction if they've got one or two pictures. If they've got 4, 5, 6, 8 pictures and everything is shown in that watch, let's just leave it at watches today. So what I'm talking about is you got obviously the front side of the watch, but you got the back of the watch. You've got the insides of the watch. This is if they're not showing the insides of the watch, don't buy it unless it's a screaming deal. If it's a $3,000 watch and it's being sold for $100, I would maybe take a risk on it. But other than that, that's like the rare case. But other than that, if you're going to buy a watch, make sure there's a picture of the movement. Now, I hope you're still following me, because here's the next kicker, okay? The next kicker is if you're buying a 10-year-old watch, a 20-year-old watch, a 30-year-old watch, look very closely at the pictures and blow those pictures of those watch up, okay? Now, obviously, you're going to look at this. There's going to be a whole bunch of screws in this watch. Now, you're going to look at the screw heads. Pay attention to the screw heads, and you're going to be able to tell if that watch has been overhauled at all. And chances are you can buy a watch that's 20 years old that has never been touched by a jeweler or a watchmaker. Now, what's the choice? Would you buy a watch that's been overhauled, or would you buy a watch that's never been touched by a jeweler? That's your choice. So these are the kinds of things that you look at, right? And so I would say that every time a watchmaker goes in and overhauls a watch, that watch loses value. So if you see that the screw heads are all beat up, you know that a watchmaker's been in there 5, 6 times, for regular overhauls, okay? So anyways, the last point I'm making is that with this watch, it has been running solid now for like 3 or 4 days, and I don't even wear it all day. And I bought this microgliss. Now, this Mobius microgliss, okay, like I'll tell you something, and that is that I attempted to fix this watch. Like I attempted to oil the rotor, and it's not a simple procedure because there's a rotor mechanism, okay? So there's a rotor mechanism. The rotor mechanism consists of a gear train of like 4 gear wheels. I think it's four or five gear wheels in the gear train of the rotor. So it's the automatic works. They call it the automatic works, and it's right in the back of the watch. You don't have to go deeper into the watch. You can take the rotor. I was lucky enough because there's online instructions on how to work on this watch, and it's how to remove the automatic works. So when I first got this watch, and I tried to get it to the rotor to run more smoothly, the only thing that I oiled the rotor bearings. So that required no taking apart of anything. I just basically put a bit of oil into the rotor bearing, and I hope for the best. I even tried to evaporate the old oil with alcohol and then put in the Mobius G2, or Mobius, whatever it is. It's the Mobius microgliss oil. So anyways, I didn't have very much success with that. So basically, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna take apart the automatic works of this watch, and so I don't even have like jeweler's screwdrivers. I have a bunch of cheap made Chinese screwdrivers. I had one screwdriver that I even had to sand the end of it so that it really works well in these tiny screws. And I have a magnifying glass as well. I'm telling you, you're not even going to be able to see what you're doing. The gears are so tiny that you need a little tiny pair of tweezers. I have a really tiny pair of tweezers that I use. If I can find them. They're the tiniest tweezers. So I have these tiny tweezers that I bought for electronics. So those are extremely. I would not even attempt to do this repair without tweezers like that. Just because you're not even going to have any kind of luck with your fingers. It's going to be impossible with your fingers to work on this thing with your fingers, because you're going to be using this for the screws. The screws are so tiny that you're gonna need these tweezers for the screws. There's no way you're gonna be able to work on this watch with just your fingers. So it's really quite tricky. So, but the bottom line is I was able to get the gear train, and I also use your cell phone camera, take pictures. When you're working on the watch, if you're going to go this far, say you've got an old watch and you don't want to spend the money to take it in to get completely overhauled, because the watch is actually running, but it just kind of like the automatic works are kind of like slowing it down because they don't wind the watch properly. So this is what I was running into. So what I did was I started by oiling the weight and the oscillating weight and the bearings and the oscillating weight, and that didn't do the trick. So basically I worked on the automatic works, and I pulled the 3 screws, and like I said, take your cell phone, take a whole bunch of pictures. Don't attempt this without the screwdriver like that. Check out your videos, and I'm telling you, is like, have a good place to work, because these little tiny screws, it's so easy to lose one of these little tiny screws. So yeah, you can lose the screws really, really easily. So yeah, I don't advise working on this unless you really, really feel confident, because it's just they make it look they make it look easy on the watch channel when the guys working on watches. Those guys make it look easy, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Um, each of the gear wheels only goes in one way. Like if you put in a gear wheel upside down, you know, it's the whole thing is just not going to work. So everything has to go back correctly the way it was taken apart, or the thing just doesn't work. And you know, it's just you have to be so very careful, and you really have to do things by feel. So when you're putting it together, you have to sort of say, well, you have to test it out, right? Like once you put the whole gear train back together, you watch in the videos how you know, you don't even screw everything down tight, because basically you put the gears back in, and then you basically put the what is it called, a bridge? There's these things called bridges, and the bridges hold the gears in place. So you make sure that the bridges are holding the gears, right? So you basically put the bridges on, and then put the gears in, put the bridges on the gears, and then you have to make sure everything is rolling. Okay, so you kind of have to basically nudge the gears. Look at this, I actually have a dental tool as well. I actually found this dental tool, but I use that as well. It's just a very fine little pointer, and so you can actually nudge the gear wheels. And if the gear wheels are not moving correctly, you know that something's wrong, and you don't want to put that bridge together until you know that the gear wheels are properly put together, properly set in their proper places. So anyways, and you kind of have to use your logic too. Like if you see a little gear wheel, you know that if you have the gear wheel up, it's not engaging, so it's in the wrong spot. So you have to flip the gear wheel over so that the gear wheel engages with the other gear wheel. These are all like common sense things, but you really have to pay attention. So anyways, I was able to, long story short, I was able to remove the 9892-2 ETA automatic works from the watch, and I think there's 3 screws holding the bridge, and there's 3 screws holding the oscillating weight to the bearing, and then there's actually the whole works is held with 3 screws onto the actual watch itself. So I think there's like a total of 9 screws, and they're basically 3 different size screws, at least 2 or 3 different size screws. So you basically have to keep those screws separate, and the screws are so tiny. Especially the screws are, all of the screws are pretty easy to work with, except for the screws that hold the oscillating weight to the oscillating bearing, and those screws are incredibly tiny, and it took me several tries and incredibly frustrating to get those screws in to the oscillating weight onto the mechanism and the bearing. So anyways, I'm just trying to tell you like the most roughest stuff. So there. But anyways, I was able to get the thing. I added some microgliss. Now there's a lot of situations, like, you know, they talk about on the watch channels where they're talking about, you know, lubricating your watch. Okay, so they talk about lubricating the jewel. You know, you lubricate the jewel points. So really, yeah, sure, it's important to lubricate the jewel points, right? But there's worse parts on the watch that need lubricating, and I don't think people talk about this. Haven't seen a lot of watch videos, but I think this is like a really not a lot of people talk about this topic, and that is that there's surfaces inside a watch where there's literally metal on metal, and there's literally no lubricant in those places in the watch. And this is quite surprising. And I think that they've been doing this for so many years that nobody's ever really questioned, like, why are they doing this? So it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a watch designer, but there's literally, if you go into looking at the inside and taking apart this watch, you're like, this watch gear is, you know, really, it's metal on metal, right? There's one, and it's that's how so there's so much friction. What I'm trying to say is there's so much friction. There's like a gear, because not every single watch gear is held in by jewel. Okay, there's lots of gears in there that are simply held in by metal surfaces that are holding them together. So, and there's lots of friction on there. And this is what I'm talking about on the automatic works, is that like the reason that my watch is working now is not because it's a new watch or new parts. It's because now that I put the microgliss, there's like surfaces, there's maybe 2 or 3 watch gears inside the automatic train where the only thing that's holding those gears in place is metal on metal. Now, I was generous with the microgliss. Probably I would have been scolded by watchmakers. They'd be saying, "What are you doing? That's a mess." So I put the microgliss on the metal to metal surfaces inside of the automatic works. And it's like, now it's like everything's freely moving. And much better than it was before, for sure. And so, you know, I automatically take that to the microgliss over those surfaces. So anyways, that's something to think about and something to talk about, because it's pretty amazing that you can do that. And, you know, it would probably take, if you could do that to a few watches, you know, it's just, we've come a long way. Like, for example, you take a 20-year-old watch that has an amazing movement, and then you add like a really synthetic, you know, oil that's really high-tech oil, okay? So you add this really high-tech like oil to an old watch, and it basically, what it does is it creates a frictionless environment inside that watch. And so you're going to see an old watch that probably runs better than it ran probably out of the factory. So that's pretty mind-blowing. But anyways, so that's like my experiment and my observation with microgliss and a watch that's probably 30 years old, excuse me, that's running quite nicely. So thanks for watching, and I hope I can provide something useful to you and in this video and all my videos. So you know, if you're interested in that, obviously subscribe. I don't think I have to even say that. So thanks for watching.